and welcome to this new episode. This episode will show you the power of the cry vocal technique and how this technique can help you sing high notes with lots of power and ease, but also will help you to get the sound of your voice really nice and warm. So let's dive into it. Hey, I am so excited that you're here because today we're going to be talking about this vocal technique called cry. Now, this technique will help you to sing high notes with lots of ease and power, but also it will help you to make the sound of your voice sound warmer. So if you're someone who's got this sharpness in your voice, or maybe there's not enough power in your voice, maybe a little bit of breathiness, then cry is definitely the technique for you. Now, before we go into what cry is, how we can apply that into a song, because we'll be doing some singing today, I do want to go over two main mistakes that many beginner singers make. Because once we're aware of these mistakes, we can actually do something about it and change it. So a big mistake that beginner singers make is that they don't do cry in an exaggerated way when first learning it. What I mean by that is cry is a vocal technique when we're exaggerating it that might sound very dramatic and classical in some way. And as you know, my area of expertise is pop singing, pop music. And I work with pop singers, and many pop singers, they don't want to have that classical sound. And so they don't do this technique in the exaggerating way because they're afraid of that sound. And that's totally fine. I get that. I've been there myself. Now, the idea to first exaggerate cry is so that you can feel how that technique is supposed to be done. So I always say that singing is feeling, and I could feel it in one place, but you could feel it in a different place. And we need to find what that cry feels and sounds like for you. And in order to do that, we need to first exaggerate that. And then once we have that, once we understand, oh, this is where my cry placement is, then we can move back and diminish the cry and make it sound really, really pretty and use it to our advantage. So that's one mistake that many beginner singers make. Another one is that many beginner singers are afraid to use this technique in an actual song because they might associate this particular sound with that classical sound. Now, the truth is that there's a difference between classical singing and this cry technique. Could you use cry into classical? We could argue that you can. However, cry is a more contemporary vocal technique. So it's mostly used in contemporary vocals. And so beginner singers, because they're afraid of that classical sound or they don't want to sound like that, they're not really using it. And that's a shame because cry has so many benefits and can help you with so many things. Once you're aware of these mistakes that might be happening and maybe you recognize yourself in one of those things, totally fine. That means you can do something about it. And this is what trained singers do. And I want to get you into the world of that trained singer. So trained singers, they do things differently. First of all, trained singers, they will practice in an exaggerated way. They will practice and really try and find that exaggerated sound so that they can feel where that placement is, so that they can hear how cry is supposed to sound like, and then they will diminish that to make their sound beautiful. That's what we want to be doing. Also, the trained singer, they will not shy away from using this technique, and especially use this technique in different contexts and different songs, because cry adds vocal variety. In our previous episodes, or I think in one of our previous episodes around twang, I gave you the metaphor of a painting, and we can use that here as well. If you would be painting with one color all the time, that might get boring very fast. Now, that depends on someone's opinion, of course, but when we're singing and you're only using one vocal color, that can be boring too. If you're singing and you're using a whole array of colors and you have a whole rainbow of colors in your voice, that will make your listener be interested in what you have to say, create, and sing. And that's what we want to go to. Now, as you know, we're always working from the 4 pillars of the Sing Yourself to Freedom formula. This is a formula that I help singers go through in our Singing Insiders membership, which is a community for passionate singers just like yourself to learn more about singing, to get feedback from coaches, and so on and so forth. If you do want to join us, little side note, I will link to the waitlist in the description here down below, because doors are not always open, but you can find that in the description, and then you'll be the first one notified to be able to join this beautiful community. But anyway, we're working from that formula, 4 pillars. The first one is mindset, then we have vocal technique, creativity, and connection. And today, obviously, we are in the vocal technique pillar. So there's many things to discover around singing, but we're really focusing on vocal technique today. So let's start with the what. Like, what is cry? Now, the good news is that you already have cry in your muscle memory. This is already something that you can do, because as a baby, you have cried for hours and hours on end without getting hoarse, right? So your body already knows how to put this into practice. The challenge is to link what our body knows to do naturally to singing. That's where the disconnect is, because we're not used to use cry when we're singing. So the idea is to find that cry and then link that to singing. Some benefits of cry is to have a neutral larynx position, and this actually helps to release any tension that you have when you might be singing. So if you do feel tension, try apply some cry, and that might help you. Another benefit of cry is that it will help to get or promote cord closure, vocal cord closure. So it will bring the 2 vocal cords together, which is really interesting because that will help you to sing with less breathiness, less air, and that's exactly what we want, right? So that we can have more power and less hoarseness. Because when you're singing on a breathy voice all the time, that could cause hoarseness, and we don't want to have that. Third benefit of cry is that it will help you to transition between different registers. So I'm going to dive deeper into a little bit of more advanced vocal techniques, but basically we have different registers. Maybe you know that, maybe you don't, and that's totally fine. There's other episodes walking you through that. But we have our chest voice, we have our head voice, yoo-hoo! And then oftentimes what happens when a singer goes from one to the other is that there's a voice crack or a flip or anything to describe a non-smooth transition. It kind of sounds like this. So the voice kinds of cracks or flips to the other register. And having cry can actually help you to smoothen out that transition and activate your mixed voice, which is what many singers are after. So, how do we practice and how do we apply the cry technique? There are, before we dive into it, many different exercises. If you're a member of the Singing Insiders, then I would highly recommend you go to the vocal workout library, and in there you have a vocal workout specifically to find that cry. Because we have a limited time here today together, I'm going to put it directly into practice and give you some tools to activate the cry. But if you're a member of the Singing Insiders, I would highly recommend you go through the vocal workout first and then come to this exercise. So for today, we're going to be working with A Million Dreams from the movie A Greatest Showman. Such a great movie, by the way. Your homework if you have not seen it yet. And we're going to be working with the chorus. Okay, so first, let's sing the chorus together. I'm gonna sing it once, and then the idea is that you can sing along with me. So if you need to rewind the video or the podcast or wherever you're listening to this, then please do so. The first step is that we can sing along together to the chorus of this song, and it goes like this. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head, a million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see, a million dreams is all it's gonna take. We're gonna be working with that part. So, if you know the song, that's great. Sing along with me. If you don't know it, rewind the video or the podcast or wherever you are and listen to it a few times so that you can sing along with me. So I'm going to assume that if you're moving forward, you can sing along with me. So let's try and do that together. Here we go. And 'cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head, a million dreams are keeping me awake. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see, a million dreams is all it's gonna take. Yes, beautiful. Now, how do we apply the cry vocal technique to it? Well, I told you, cry is something that you can already do. It's already in your muscle memory because as a child, you have cried for hours and hours on end without getting hoarse. So, can you pretend for a second that you are very sad and you're trying to talk to me while being sad and crying? Let's have a little conversation. Hello, my name is Maggie. What is your name? Please do this with me. I know it sounds ridiculous, but this is how we can find the cry. Because then if we apply this way of singing or talking into our singing, you will understand how cry really feels. I know, it sounds ridiculous, and that's okay. I warned you at the beginning of this episode that we will be doing weird noises. We first have to exaggerate the cry to then feel where that feels in our body, and then we can make it pretty. So, I hope you did this exercise with me, and then you cried a little bit and spoken in the cry, right? Okay? Now, if you've done that, then let's try and put that into our singing. So, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna sing that little chorus, but in an exaggerated cry. Okay? Let's do it. 1, 2, 3, and 'cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head, a million dreams are keeping me awake. Make it really sad. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see, a million dreams is all it's gonna take. Beautiful. And again, we want to exaggerate it. So if you are being honest with yourself, like how much exaggerateness, I don't know if that's a word, did you put into this? Like, were you at 100% or were you at 90% or were you maybe at 60%? We want to be able to be at the 100. And I'm going to show you how cry can help you to sing high pitches. So I'm going to put it a little bit higher. So I'm going to transpose this. And I'm inviting you to keep that exaggerated cry. Oh! And feel how easy those high notes are to sing. So I put it a little bit higher now. But again, your challenge is to 100% of cry. To do that, 100% cry. So exaggerate, 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 and then you'll feel that the high notes are easy, easy peasy. Let's go. Here we go. And 'cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head, a million dreams are keeping me awake. Keep it really sad. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see, a million dreams is all it's gonna take. Yes, very dramatic. that's what we want to have. So hopefully you felt that by exaggerating the cry, the high notes are actually easier to sing, which is amazing. Now you might say, well, Maggie, I don't really like the sound of my voice when I'm doing this. I totally understand. So let's now see how we can still keep the benefits of the cry, but instead of having it at 100%, we're diminishing it to 60%. And that's where it gets really hard, because many singers, they can either do 100% or 0%, but it's really hard to find that balance in between. And that's obviously what practice will give you. But for now, I'm just going to ask you to try it. To try to go from 100 to 60 and see how that sounds like for you. So for me, that would sound like this. 'Cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. That's my 60%. What is your 60%? Let's try and do that together and find it. 2, 3, and 'cause every night I lie in bed, the brightest colors fill my head. A million dreams are keeping me awake. Beautiful. I think of what the world could be, a vision of the one I see. A million dreams is all it's gonna take. Nice. That deserves a virtual high five. Beautiful, beautiful. So how was that for you? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm really curious to hear. So the idea is that you get to, first of all, understand what cry is and why it's so important. Then we need to be able to really exaggerate the cry so that you feel and hear how cry is applied. And then we need to be able to go from that 100% to 70, to 50, to 40, and so on and so forth, so that you can play with the different amounts of cry, and that will give you that vocal variety. Now, cry is just one technique, and there are so many others to discover. So if you want to discover those other techniques, well, then I got good news for you, because I got a free training coming up, and that training will walk you through the most important vocal techniques. You can sign up totally for free. I'll link to it in the description here down below. That's actually your homework, to go through that training and then apply what you learn in that training to the cry. And then you will see that your voice will open up. There's going to be so much more vocal variety. And that's, of course, where we want to go to, right? So if you have any questions, let me know in the comments down below. Go do that free training. I'm excited to see what that will do for you. And thank you so much for being here this week and spending this time with me. I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to see you again next week. See you then. Bye.